Today, we're diving into the No Kings movement. And that name, it's a powerful statement, right? It really echoes that core American idea of rejecting absolute power. According to our source material, on one specific day, that idea just absolutely exploded into this massive coordinated protest that brought millions of people onto the streets, not just here in the US, but all over the world. Now get this, the organizers made an incredible claim. They didn't just plan a protest, they actually predicted it would become the single largest nonviolent day of action in American history. That is a bold, bold statement. So let's take a look at what the sources say really went down.
And the scale we're talking about here is, well, it's just staggering. We're talking an estimated millions of people hitting the streets. This wasn't just some local thing. This was a nationwide mobilization that, as we're about to see, even went international.
So, first up, a nation protests. Now, it's really important to note that the source material makes it clear this wasn't some one-off event. This was actually the third major demonstration for the No Kings movement. That tells you there was a sustained, highly organized effort behind all of this.
You know, what's really striking is the sheer logistics of it all. They had demonstrations planned in all 50 states. Just think about the level of coordination that takes to get people from Florida to Alaska all organized to act on the very same day. It's pretty incredible.
But a movement this huge isn't just about good planning, right? It's about what motivates people. So next, let's listen to the voices from the street and really explore the why. You know, the core issues that got so many people to show up.
And the key thing to understand here is that this wasn't a single-issue protest. Not at all. The source material points to a whole range of grievances, from broad opposition to the Trump administration's policies, to anger over immigration enforcement, deep worries about a war in Iran, and real outrage over the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy by federal officers.
And this is where you see those big, abstract political issues become something deeply personal. A reporter in New York asked one protester what brought them out, and the answer was just so direct and powerful. That war, and how things are being done in this country now.
But this energy, it wasn't just contained to the United States, not by a long shot. So next, we're going to see the global reach of this movement and just how far its message really spread.
So while these marches were happening everywhere, the organizers actually designated one city as the flagship event, sort of the central hub for the day's activities across the country. And that was St. Paul, Minnesota.
And the action really was all over the nation. The source highlights huge turnouts in places you'd expect, like New York and LA, but also in smaller towns like Brunswick County, North Carolina. And then check this out. In California, protesters got super creative, spelling out a message with their bodies on a beach.
And then it went global. People were rallying in major European capitals. We're talking Rome, Madrid, Paris, Athens, and London, holding marches to support the American protesters and echo a lot of the same concerns.
This quote from London, captured by a reporter, gives you this really poignant international viewpoint. When they were asked about the US at that moment, their response was simple, and it kind of hits hard. A sad, sad story.
So on one hand, you've got this massive, peaceful, global day of action. But how is it received by those in power? Well, this is where it gets fascinating, because it brings us to this stark contrast, a tale of two completely different narratives.
Now, this is a really crucial detail from the reporting. Despite millions of people and incredibly high emotions, the demonstrations were peaceful, nationwide. Okay, remember that detail because it makes the official reaction that much more striking.
And then there was the official reaction. In a complete pivot from the scenes on the streets, the White House dismissed the protests entirely. A statement actually called the events trumped arrangement therapy sessions and claimed the only people who cared were the reporters who were paid to cover them.
So for our final takeaway, how do we even begin to make sense of two completely opposite interpretations of the exact same event?
And this slide just lays out that conflict perfectly. On one side, you have the protesters' view. This was a historic day of action with millions demonstrating. And on the other, the official White House view. It was a staged therapy session that only matters to the media. I mean, two starkly different realities, both describing the very same day. Which leaves us with this final big question, one that's drawn directly from the source material. What does it mean for all of us when a single event can be framed as both a historic mass movement and a completely irrelevant sideshow?